They are shooting baskets in the high school gymnasium, just like they did growing up. But oh, so much has changed for Akbar, Abdul, and Dentel Green. They were a dynamic duo in the Minneapolis City Conference, basketball junkies. And this was their playground, their escape from neighborhoods and families drug-infested and drug-affected. But here, they were just basketball players.
High school was the most fun I ever had in basketball. It was one of those situations that you really get to be creative. You know, there's no pressure. With the pressure, I mean, it was politics and everything you do, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a business.
I just remember a lot of adversity for both of us.
How come?
Because coming from where we come from, playing basketball was our outlet.
There was the night they each scored 36 points.
But one night, we were playing North here, and they each scored 36 points. And we ended up beating them, and I turned to my assistant, who was Rob Mestis at the time, and I said, Rob, you better enjoy this because you'll never see it again. And that was a good night for Roosevelt basketball.
But there was something more calling them than the game. They were brought up in the streets, and that meant a life that they understand. What is this neighborhood? This kind of where the area where you grew up. What does this neighborhood represent to you when you think of it? Good memories or bad?
Both. You know, it's a humbling experience. You just realize how far you've come in life. And always, I don't want to forget where I come from. Never. A lot of people try to have you bury memories, but I don't want to bury them because it keeps me humble a lot. It always reminds me of how far I've come and where I'm trying to go.
He saw it all growing up, including a murder in his front yard after a gang altercation.
Yeah, he was just bleeding. I remember he was sitting in front of the house, and he was bleeding right there, just blood gushing out his neck, and he was just shaking. And it was just a reality, like, man, we have to die. And I just wanted to have a purpose in life, and he told me, keep playing basketball.
Akbar has indeed come a long way, back from where he was. He was good enough to play Division I basketball and professionally in Germany. He returned to Minnesota, opened a business, then it happened. Arrested and sent to prison for 2 years.
They sent my mother away, my brother.
And what were the charges?
Conspiracy. My mother was a stash house. I mean, you could pick your litter. Like mine was conspiring with the conspirators to sell something grams. Conspiring with someone to hold a firearm. But there's nothing physically that I've done, nothing. It was a situation that some guys wanted to rob someone that I knew about because they were talking about it is a crime. They're on the phone, a wiretap, talking about a robbery that was going to take place. Fact is, it never took place. Because you talked about that crime, you're guilty.
Meanwhile, Dentel was on his own path, convicted of selling drugs. What's prison like?
It's like being buried alive. I mean, you can scream for help, can't nobody hear you, and the people that can hear you, they don't want to hear about it because they buried with you.
Lives that looked wasted in a cell that represented rock bottom.
And I wouldn't wish that on any man. It's you challenging yourself, and people wonder how you find God because you realize at the end of the day, there's no one else there. Your family, no one's there for you. It's just you. You're sitting in the cell, and no one can hear you. You could cry all night. The guards, they don't care. To them, you're a criminal. You're just another number. So you're thinking like, I'm special, I'm different. No, you're not. They treat you the same way as everyone else. You're not special.
It was very difficult for me being as close I was to him and as his old coach to see him there. But we continued contact, and I knew that his heart was always in the right place, and Sherburne County wasn't in the right place for him.
When Akbar was released, he moved to Dallas, reconnected with the basketball world, and got a call to help on the remake of the set for the show Dallas.
And he said, yeah, we're just running the pilot right now. If TNT pick it up, we'll find out, but we can't pay you much, but we can give you a little something. I said, no problem, there's no problem. They gave me catering, they had catering, everything, craft services, everything. And all of a sudden, I said, he gave me a check, wrote a check out for $2,500. I said, that's not a lot of money.
You're thinking like 200 or something.
Right, I'm thinking 200 or $100, you know, it's cool, you know. $2,500, I said to myself, how much money is in this business?
He even got his big break. They needed someone for a part. He took his shot on screen.
Long story short, they asked me to audition for a scene called The Messenger, and I auditioned for it, and I landed it. So I was getting checks being a production assistant as well as being an actor.
What was it like when you did your lines?
Man, it felt like I was playing basketball. You know, the lights, camera, action. And I always felt, it's weird, but I always tell my family, I always tell Dentel this, and Coach, I felt that someone was always watching me since I was a kid. I always felt like I had cameras on me all the time.
Yes, a shot he thinks could be a springboard. At minimum, he's learning about television, about acting, with a little bit of help from, who else? JR.
Oh, cool guy. He's real smooth. I said to him, man, you know, I just want to pick his brain. You know, he's been in this business for a long time for a reason. I always talk to we call them the old heads, you know, well-seasoned people, right? I said, well, you know, how did you get this far? What's your advice for me as an upcoming actor? He said, make sure you have a good wife by your side, supportive. Akbar, make sure you have. He said, you have a nice voice and keep it up.
He has a wife and child in what is a fresh start, a life that he's developing into his own documentary. And he hopes he has something to offer the kids that live the same life he lived.
And to be able to go back and be able to talk to young men, you know, not to glorify anything, but just to talk to them and just say, man, you know, you ever think about something else? I'm not asking you to be a basketball player, a football player, but something. You like money? Be an accountant. Count some money, you know, go to work at a bank. Don't rob a bank, work for a bank.
So maybe this will have a happy ending for both.
I made my mistake by not using all of the positive outlets that I had.
No guarantees, but Akbar knows where he has been and he knows where he can go, and he hopes he makes the right decisions.
But they always say, you know, have character, don't be a character.